It's time to go back in those time machines once again for SCW Rewind. Halloween Havoc 1997 is the retro review that you voted for, and I'm going to get straight in it with my very special guest straight after this. Right then, without further ado, then my very special guest for this retro review, we're about to go under analysis with Wrestling by Wooldridge. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm all good. Cheers, mate. Great to be back on the channel again. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks very much.
It's great to have you on, as always. And as I say, for everybody that is not aware of your content, they should be by now, but please give your channel a plug.
Yep, so Wrestling by Wooldridge, as Steve said, I'm currently doing a show called Under Analysis. I'm actually going to be releasing my last chapter of the first season, if that makes any sense, hopefully this weekend. Also got some new exciting ideas that should be coming to the channel soon enough. Little bit of a hint, but I do have Steve on the channel coming up very soon. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Indeed, I highly recommend it. And I'm sorry for any gimmick infringement very early into this video with the under analysis there, Aaron, but it's a really fantastic series. I recommend anybody to go and check it out that hasn't seen it already. And I will leave the link to your channel in the description. But of course, as well, if you can't wait for that at the end of this video, then you can always go to the community page, because I have give Aaron a shout during the SCW Wrestling YouTube Appreciation Week. So you can go and find his link in the description on there and even see his latest video that he has uploaded. But of course, stick around with us for right now, because we're about to go under analysis with Halloween Havoc 1997. When this one was voted by everybody, Aaron, and this was the show we were going to review, what were your thoughts? Were you very excited to see this show?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's got one very good match on the card, so always happy to watch that match. But yeah, because in one of my under analysis episodes, I did actually review that match. And I remember sort of looking at this show and the rest of the card on it, and it did intrigue me. So obviously when this won, yeah, it was great to go back and watch it. Some really interesting matches on the card. So yeah, it was a good watch.
Absolutely, indeed. Then we look forward to diving straight into it. And yeah, I mean, was there a particular match just before we say? I mean, obviously, it feels like that's the obvious one that stood out, Eddie versus Rey, to go back and watch it again. But was there a different match that you said, this one really intrigues me more than the rest?
The opening match, Nagata versus Dragon, that intrigues me, and probably Curt Hennig versus Ric Flair as well. That's definitely one that I was intrigued to see. Yeah,
absolutely. Like you say, I mean, the chemistry as well with the two guys in the opening, and as well with Hennig and Flair, that had some great matches previously, even in WWE back in the early days of Monday Night Raw. So it was intriguing to see what they'd bring to the table there. But yeah, I mean, it's an exciting one, and anyone that is watching, feel free to join in with the comments along as we go if you'd like to. Of course, you can always just watch and view along if you'd like to as well. But for those then that are unaware, Halloween Havoc 1997 was on the 26th of October in 1997 at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The attendance for this show was 12,457 in attendance, and we had a video package to open up the show, hyping up what would be the main event of the evening, the NWO leader Hollywood Hogan against the commissioner at that point of WCW, the one that was making the decisions, Roddy Piper. Now, these two had faced previously a couple of times in WCW, and Piper had won both of them. Of course, Starrcade being the first one I did back in 1996, if I'm not mistaken. That is correct, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was the main event of the show. What did you feel the opening package there, hyping up the main event? Did it feel you more intrigued to see this match as well?
Yeah, I think it did a good job with that, definitely. Obviously, Piper and Hogan do, as you say, they do have quite a historic past and everything. And with this sort of being the blow-off match, with it being in a steel cage as well, yeah, it did get me excited to watch the show. It was a good story, I think.
Absolutely, definitely a good story going into it. And Piper definitely was fully focused going into this. He wanted to make sure that he got Hogan. He'd wanted Hogan in the cage for a long, long time. He'd been trying to get this match. I think even to as early as like Uncensored and places like that previously, he tried to get this. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. And yeah, I mean, I was quite hyped looking into it, looking forward to seeing the main event. Had been quite a while since I'd seen this show. So yeah, for me, this was definitely one of the points. When you look at the card, it does look quite stacked from top to bottom. But we'll go into saying about the commentary as well. We had Tony Schiavone on commentary with Bobby the Brain Heenan, as well as the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, and Mike Tenay as well was on the first 3 matches of the card as well, featuring a number of the WCW Cruiserweights. Quite a good selection, quite a bit of flavour on the commentary team. I thought they all did quite a good job actually.
Yeah, that's a great combination, isn't it? As soon as the show opened up and I saw it as them 3, as well with Mike Tenay, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Because you know what Brain brings to the table, such an amazing colour commentator. And Dusty Rhodes was really good during this whole show, I thought. And then, you know, Schiavone, yeah, just great back in his heyday. Still is now, but yeah, he did a great job for WCW.
Absolutely, yeah. They knew when to hype things up at the right moment throughout the entire card. So I think that they all did their job perfectly. And obviously, for me, Bobby the Brain is one of my favourites of all time. So getting to hear anything when he gets to throw in his jokes, his quirks, anything is always just magical. So, well, without further ado, let's go into the first match of the card then of the evening, which was Ultimo Dragon taking on Yuji Nagata with Sonny Ono in his corner. Just for a bit of backlog for anyone that's not sure of the story, of course, Sonny Ono originally brought Ultimo Dragon. They were a combination when it came to WCW. They broke up after a while, and Sonny Ono brought in Yuji Nagata to take out Ultimo Dragon. So that's pretty much the basis of what this leads down to. And yeah, Ultimo Dragon looking to sort of get revenge here, if you want, so much because of Ono getting in someone to attack him all the way through. But this match, I think, was a very solid opener. And I think it goes to show as well that these two are great chemistry. We had a difference of styles as well. Yuji Nagata being more submission-based throughout this match and a lot of striking going on as well with those sort of hard kicks that he has against those high-flying aerial ability of the Ultimo Dragon. What I really like as well is we did get to see an Asai moonsault quite early into the match from Ultimo Dragon to Yuji Nagata on the outside of the floor. We do see Raven's Flock coming through the crowd. They always sit in the audience around this time in WCW, but didn't see much more than throughout the rest of the evening. But hey, still good to see them just for that brief moment. We see a lot of attack going on to the arm of Ultimo Dragon. It seems to be the focus from Yuji Nagata, and a couple of devastating spots, particularly one with a turnbuckle area where it's sort of the steel area of that sort of turnbuckle and the arm put there in like a clothesline. It was quite brutal to say the very, very least. But the Dragon makes a comeback with a Frankensteiner. He goes for his patented Dragon Sleeper, but this is reversed into the Fujiwara armbar, and it's a tap-out victory. So for me, I was quite surprised seeing Yuji Nagata pick up the victory here in this opening contest, but I thought it was a solid encounter between the two. A good clash of styles, and yeah, this was fun all around. What were your thoughts with this one, Aaron?
Yeah, really enjoyed this match. As you say, good sort of clash of styles with Nagata being more of that sort of strong style, submission based, and Dragon being the sort of luchador. But yeah, I thought it told a really great story from start to finish. It kind of started off with both guys trying to control the tempo. Obviously, I think when Nagata sort of took control, he slowed down the tempo really nicely, which just made a lot of sense, to be honest. And then when he started to work over the arm of Ultimo Dragon, all of the maneuvers were just laser focused on it, and I just thought that was a great story. Yeah, I thought the finish was really clever as well, with Ultimo Dragon going for the I can't remember what move he went for to finish the match now, but I think it was a sleep. Yeah, the Dragon Sleeper, sorry, but he was using the arm that Nagata had targeted for the match, so obviously that was quite a big mistake going into it, which then allowed Nagata to use the Fujiwara armbar, which is just a great move to finish off. You know, just rounds off the story nicely. So yeah, really good pacing, quickened up whenever a Dragon was in control, and then it slowed down for Nagata. So yeah, I just thought it was a really good opener for sure.
Yeah, it was absolutely solid, absolutely fantastic, and definitely ticked a lot of the boxes. It didn't really finish there after, because there was an attack after the match as well, wasn't there? Yeah. Continue the attack on Ultimo Dragon's arm. In fact, Sonny Ono does, it's sort of like a bro kick, almost very early Sheamus days, but we even knew there was a Sheamus, wasn't it? And the commentary suspect that Dragon had a broken arm after this, clearly to write him off for the time being. But yeah, I thought that this was good as well, because it gave that heel heat as well for Yuji Nagata. It's almost like this new stunt that's coming. He was quite fresh to the company at the time. It gives legitimacy as well to this if they want to revisit revisit it further down the line. So this ticked a lot of boxes for me for an opener. And so what would you give this as a rating if you had to go out of 5 stars?
So this might surprise me. I honestly, I would give this 4 stars. I know it's only sort of 9 minutes, 10 minutes long, but I just didn't think it. I just thought it was perfect. The story they told, it was just fundamentally sound, really intense stuff for just the whole 10 minutes straight. So yeah, 4 stars for me, to be honest.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Well, I can say to you that Mr. Dave Meltzer gave this a 3 3/4 star for the opener. And I mean, yeah, like you say as well, this was a 9 minute and 42-second match. And I have to kind of agree with you because for me, the intensity was just there. There felt like there was real hype at the early part of this show. And yeah, this ticked a lot of boxes. It had story, it had excitement, it had the good clash of styles. So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with the 4 stars on this one. I thought this was a cracking opener to kick off the show. But we'll move on then further then, because we go backstage, we get the WCW internet section as well, where you see superstars on pay-per-views talking. I think it's to Scott Hudson and to people sitting around. And we see the Disco Inferno there saying about his match later on in the evening with Jacquelyn. He says that, you know, I don't know what to do with it, because I can't hit a woman, you know, which fair enough. You shouldn't really be doing that. I agree. But Jackie comes there and she chases him off the set as well. So just a little bit more of addition to the hype of what that match will be coming, which we'll talk about later in the show. But we got a bonus match for us next now, which was not promoted ahead of time of the show. And it is going to be Chris Jericho, the Lionheart, against Gedo. Now, for me, first thing before we even go into detail of this match, we have to talk about Gedo, because I'm aware of seeing him in New Japan today. I'd even forgotten he'd made an appearance in WCW at this point.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. Well, I didn't watch too much WCW, but I think I still knew guys like Nagata went over there. But to see Gedo over there, yeah, it's crazy, because obviously he's still going now. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this match on the card.
It certainly was. And I mean, we've got a little bit of backstory as well. These two do have history from Chris Jericho's time in New Japan, because, of course, Chris Jericho had been doing the tours around the world at that point. He'd sort of been doing, you know, Stampede Wrestling. He'd been in Mexico, been in Japan before he'd come to WCW, even been in ECW as well. So it's good that we got some sort of a relationship between these two, which Mike Tenay did, you know, actually told us in quite good detail. So it goes to show as well the quality edition of having Tenay on the commentary booth, because he seems to know everything about everything, doesn't he? It's almost, even Bobby Heenan's like, is there anything you don't know?
Yeah, he's on fire on this show for the 3 matches that he did do on the show. As you say, the guy just knew everything from all these different companies, whether it's in Mexico or Japan, and it just adds so much to the story of the match, I think. And yeah, it just makes you care about it a little more. So yeah, kudos to Tenay.
Absolutely, because to be fair, I mean, a 7 minute and 18-second match, without knowing too much there, you maybe think, oh, well, this is going to be a squash match, just a reason to get Jericho on the card. But like you say, you find yourself caring about it a bit more. But the match was okay. But what I would say is Jericho is very lucky not to end his career during this match and probably get a broken neck, because there was a horrible moment where he's going for a standing Super Frankensteiner from the top rope, Jericho landing on his neck, really, basically, and Gedo kind of landing on top of him. He didn't really flip either, when it just was a horrible looking moment, very scary one. But thankfully there was no issues and the match was able to finish off there. And what were your thoughts when you saw this? Because I must admit, like, I just winced when I looked at it.
I did gasp a little, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it. I did think he was going to hit it clean, but yeah, that did look pretty bad, to be honest. Just glad Jericho was okay. But yeah, pretty scary stuff at the time.
Absolutely. I mean, if that had been a live event, you'd be petrified out your seat, wouldn't you? You'd be checking every dirt sheet going. But I mean, thankfully, you know, this is a show from 1997. Jericho's still wrestling today, so thankfully it all worked out okay. But the match did finish to finish at a fast pace after that. It felt like after this moment, these two just really went for it from to the finish. Gedo then seemed to miss what looked to be a leg drop from the top rope, where Jericho's kind of on his way up, almost like a John Cena-esque style leg drop. Seemed to miss that, and Jericho put on the Lion Tamer to get the tap out victory. But overall, this obviously is going to be remembered for that horrible spot in the match. But did it take away too much from you to give it a good grade overall?
A little bit. I think the thing is with the match, like I like the intensity again. I think that is what these sort of New Japan guys brought. You know, it had good wrestling in it, but I do think it kind of lacked story, to be honest. I think they were kind of going for Gedo always being one step ahead of Jericho, but I don't know. For me, it just kind of felt a little bit flat. So I wouldn't say the botch harmed it too much, more than just just the structure of the match itself, to be honest. But yeah, it was serviceable. The wrestling was great and the intensity was good. So yeah.
What would you rate it out of the 5 stars?
I probably would go for 2.75, something along those sort of lines.
Fair play to you, fair play to you. I'm going to go for a 2-star myself, just because of that horrible moment in the match. And like you say, of a lot of the matches, especially when you get a lot of these early matches in these WWE shows, you know you're getting quality. It was good. There's nothing wrong with saying it was good, but I didn't find myself as gripped as I wanted. But in fact, to be horrible, or not to sound horrible, but I was more gripped from the moment where something went wrong, which is not a good sign, really. So for that reason, I'll give it a 2-star. But Mr. Dave Meltzer, he gives his little star rating as well. See if people would agree with this one. 3 stars was what Big Dave gave this one from the 7-minute and 18-second match. So he seemed to quite enjoy it by the seams of things. So there you go. But anything more?
I mean, it's a New Japan guy, isn't it? So it's a New Japan guy. Dave Meltzer loves his New Japan.
That's so true as well. Yeah, you make a great point there. It's a shame that maybe usually New Japan stars would have gone to about the 4.75 star, wouldn't it? But one that he did
7 stars.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one match that he did give a lot of those generous ratings to will be our next match, which we'll come to in a second. But just before we do, Mean Gene is backstage with Debra McMichael, and she is refusing to give away who the mystery man will be to face Mongo McMichael later, even suggesting Steven Seagal had been rumoured, but she wasn't actually taking that one at all. But Mongo comes in and asks for his wedding ring, his Rolex, and his credit cards back, and Debra says that she's earned it after putting up with him and his family. Ouch. You can tell that this is a bit sour at this point between these two.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite an entertaining segment, to be honest. I thought they both did a pretty good job of it. Yeah, it was quite funny. It did kind of make me look forward to the match and seeing who Debra's mystery opponent was for Mongo. So, yeah, they did a good job with this segment.
I absolutely did, and especially the fact that Jeff Jarrett had left the company as well after being sort of like probably the person that was meant to be against Mongo in the spot go. Of course, he went back to WWE, so yeah, that kind of affected that. But it was nice to have that mystery element, and like you say, definitely was more intrigued. But let's go to the match that I think most people are excited to talk about on this stream, and we're going to be talking the title versus mask, the Cruiserweight Championship. Eddie Guerrero, of course, Cruiserweight Champion, against Rey Mysterio Jr. Now, I'm going to go in nice and early and just say this match was 13 minutes and 51 seconds of near perfection. Dave Meltzer, I'm going to say early doors gave this 4 3/4 stars. So that just goes to show how highly he rated this match. I know your rating of this match, Aaron, just through watching your under analysis video, but I will definitely be coming to it at the end here. But we will go into just a bit of detail of the match, just for people that obviously are not aware of what went down in this encounter. But it was a fast pace and it was feeling personal from the get-go. They sort of went with a lucha libre style to kick things off. And I've got to say, every move was crisp and hit perfectly, going over the top ropes and everything from the very get-go. But Eddie Guerrero, he manages to hit an abdominal, or put an abdominal stretch on Rey Mysterio. He starts teasing going after the mask because, of course, Eddie is the champion. It's Rey's mask who is on the line. One other little note as well of interest that was said from commentary. Again, you beauty, Mike Tenay. This was the 9th time that Rey Mysterio had put his mask on the line in an encounter. Previously, of course, that means he's won all 8 previous matches that he's done that. But of course, yeah, this was the 9th time he was doing so. And of course, probably the more daring moment. And I've got to say, we'll jump into parts of this match rather than just going through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Eddie was going for the mask. And of course, we see it a lot in the modern day of wrestling, but back then that was very taboo. Some of it would seem like, oh my God, he's going for the mask. We're explained about the history of lucha libre, how much the masks mean. We had the history of the luchadors on the build to this with Mike Tenay through the summer and autumn as well. So was this a really nice touch seeing Eddie go for Rey Mysterio's mask and give that element of story early into the match, as well as the fantastic start of wrestling that we got?
Yeah, definitely. I think it made a big difference on the match. It was just great heel psychology as well. Obviously, Eddie wants to draw heat from the crowd. So what do? You go for the mask. As you said before the match, it was told how much it means to a luchador. So to have Eddie go for that constantly was just such a really good move. As you said as well, told a great story. Again, Mike Tenay was so good in this match, how he would sort of link back to their history in Mexico and just talking about the history of the luchadors. I thought he was incredible in this match, but yeah, really liked how Eddie would constantly go for the mask. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think it was a really nice touch, and really enjoyed that. And as we sort of go back in, obviously, Eddie looks to continue to dominate, but Rey manages to escape and hits a major offense, and this was just timed and done beautifully. And I'm sure you agree with me, Aaron. He does a springboard backflip DDT. This would be something that would just be seen with perfection even today's modern wrestling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, this move is absolutely incredible. It might be like the best move I've ever seen, if I'm honest with you. Like, if you watch it closely as well, like Eddie's footwork, like he takes like a little step back just so Rey can like catch him perfectly. Yeah, it's just so good. And as you say, you just don't see this move in today's like professional wrestling. No matter how many flips guys will do, whether it's Ricochet or Osprey, you never see something like this. Like, it's unbelievable.
It really is. It's a completely different level. But of course, Eddie does manage to stop that momentum and gets back on top. And more submission holds onto Rey Mysterio, tearing it again at the mask. We're getting closer to seeing what is under there. Of course, Mysterio is hung upside down in the corner, but he sort of escapes because as Eddie goes to go for a baseball slide, Rey Mysterio manages to get himself towards the top rope. And Eddie goes, the nether regions first, let's say, into the turnbuckle. As I'm sure you said on your under analysis, poor lad.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Poor lad.
Yeah, it's and obviously that led him to going towards the outside of the ring. Rey Mysterio, of course, then does a perfect leap from the top rope to the floor to land on top of Eddie, and then he hits another move, which I must admit, out of this world here. He does an incredible from running of the ropes over the top rope, a somersault over the ropes, transitioning into a hurricanrana on the floor. For me, on my notes, I've got it simply breathtaking.
Pretty much sums it up, I think. It's just amazing athleticism, isn't it? Just looks, it's so perfect, isn't it? You'd think anyone else would botch that, but these guys just time it so well. Yeah, unbelievable stuff.
Absolutely, and we get saying how good today's market of ring wrestling is, and this would fit in with any market. It's just so good. If anyone really sort of wants to just go and check this match out. It's really highly recommended. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely do it. You are seriously missing out if you haven't watched this match. It's 1997. It is absolutely crazy. You know, we're 24 years on, and a lot of matches just aren't like this. In terms of the athleticism, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's just another level. And as we go towards those closing stages of the match, then we see Rey going for like the what in WWE terms, I know it's called the West Coast Pop, but obviously I don't know what the WCW name was, but Eddie manages to counter this and turns it into a backbreaker. We see Eddie then going to go for his patented frog splash from the top rope, but he sort of rolls through as he sort of so perfectly usually does when he knows he's not going to hit it. Both men end up on the top rope. Eddie picks up Rey. Looks like it's almost like going to be like one of those razor edge kind of ways, the way he's put him in position, but Rey counters it into a hurricanrana from the top rope or the second rope, and then actually goes and hits the pinfall and gets the 3 count. So we've got a brand new Cruiserweight champion in Rey Mysterio, and of course, probably more importantly, after the story going into this match, Rey Mysterio keeps his mask as well. But Rey, perhaps glowing in the camera, talking in the camera too much, does get a bit of an attack from Eddie from behind. I suppose Eddie keeps some heel heat here, but Rey does manage to get up the aisle with the brand new Cruiserweight champion. This was just absolutely spectacular for me, in my personal opinion. It's hard to put words on it. It's that good. Aaron, the finish as well. Yeah. Did it just finish the way you wanted to as well?
Oh yeah, I loved that finish. The counter was just picture perfect, wasn't it? And these guys have just been countering each other all match, so I think the finish sort of made sense in that respect. I think Rey's speed, that was another story in the match, the whole speed versus strength element, where Rey's speed was always sort of a problem for Eddie, which is why Eddie would slow it down. Love the finish.
It's absolutely incredible, and definitely one of the top matches of the year. Arguably could be the top match of the year. But I'm gonna first off get, before I actually ask you probably a very unfair and difficult question, I'm gonna ask you in a couple of minutes. But first off, I'm gonna get your star rating of this match.
5 stars for me. It's gotta be under 15 minutes. It might be one of the best under 15 minutes. I think it probably is the best under 15-minute match, but there probably is another match out there. But yeah, 5 stars without a doubt.
Absolutely, I have to agree. 5 stars, ticks all the boxes, and just to actually, just for people that are obviously, if they're not familiar, they should be by now. Most of our followers are the same, but for your under analysis, you have like different chapters as well. And I know that this ticks all of the boxes on all of them. What chapters do you usually have for the way you break your matches down?
The elements that I do.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. So I do the story, psychology, excitement, work rate, and match structure.
And this ticked 5 out of 5 on all of them, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I think the one I was a little, I did give it a 5 in the end, but I think with the psychology, just because I think Ray selling and Eddie selling that could have been slightly better, but I think at the end of the day, the rest of the psychology in the match was so good, like with Eddie attacking Ray's back and just slowing Ray down. The heel psychology that he did was just fantastic with ripping the mask. He would always be having a go at the referee. So I think it kind of sort of balanced it out. But that was probably the only one that I wasn't sure about. The rest of them, yeah, 100% I was given a 5 stars for.
Absolutely, yeah, he does tick a lot of the boxes. So now here comes the really unfair question just before we move on, because I rejected my this has got to be the match of the year 1997, but only till I watched
I know what you're going to
ask. Yeah, you know what's coming. Your recent episode of Under Analysis had another match, which definitely was 5-star, and arguably as well one of the greatest matches of all time, and definitely one of the matches of the year. So, which match do you prefer? Do you prefer Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr. here for the Cruiserweight Championship, or Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from WrestleMania 13, the infamous I Quit match?
I think if I was to go and watch a match, I would probably enjoy this one more. But in my opinion, Austin and Bret Hart is the greatest match of all time. I think that's the best match of all time for sure. But this one is just so much fun. So I'd probably go and watch this one, but that one would be the best one, I would say. What about yourself?
I knew it was going to come back at me. I knew I weren't going to get away with not seeing anything. I would agree with you. I'm going to be honest with you, I agree with you, but I think both of them are absolutely spectacular. 5 stars. You're not losing by watching either match. They're both incredible. So that's me kind of sitting on the fence, but at the same time, I would say that I think Bret and Austin edges it just because as well was WrestleMania, what it led to afterwards as well. I mean, these two obviously would go on to become world champions in WWE, not in WCW. So for that reason, I think I would agree with you that I think when you look at everything, I would go with Bret Hart and Steve Austin being the one because of just what it led to going forward afterwards. So that would be my reasoning for it. But both matches are 5-star. Both matches are incredible. This with ease is match of the night. And for WCW, this could be even the match of WCW. I don't think I've seen a better match before or after. That's the credit I will give to this encounter. It is that good. Right. Well, I mean, where do you follow that? Anybody follow that one?
That's the main event.
That is, and literally, it's what people will remember when you go into this video as well, which is why it's the captioned one and not gone with the other matches. But we've got Hogan and Bischoff backstage, and Hogan or Bischoff saying that it's not safe enough to perform, so Hogan won't wrestle unless a contract is signed that Sting will not appear in any way, shape, or form. Of course, the Sting and Hogan storyline have been building for most of 1997. Of course, we're 2 months before where they eventually do face off at Starrcade, and of course it's getting very, very close to where they will do that, so it's getting more intensified as we go on. But Hogan says that fans will run JJ Dillon out of WCW for shortchanging fans if he doesn't compete, so to give him what he wants. So yeah, I mean, for me, just go on that sort of little detail touch quickly. I think it's nice to have stories going through the pay-per-view towards the main event, just to kind of get a bit of hype. Of course, as a fan that's probably paid for this on pay-per-view, you don't want to hear that, hang on, this guy's not going to wrestle. That kind of probably bothers you a little bit. But overall, I think this did what it needed to do, and they did it pretty well.
Yeah, and it just keeps you interested, doesn't it? You know, it's not just a guaranteed thing. As you say, you're now questioning. You're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is he actually going to be there? And I thought that was a good running theme with this whole show, you know, like 2 segments before the match. Like earlier we saw with Mongo and Debra, and with Jacquelyn and Disco Inferno. So it's neither they were sort of building to the matches on the show, and I think with this show it just built to the main event, especially with it started out with a segment like this, which was sort of built upon throughout the show. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think they did a good job in building this up here even further. And as we then go into match 4, you mentioned some hype going into one of the matches we would find out. And I'm going to keep the detail just off the screen for a minute because Mongo McMichael comes to ring. We wait to find out who it's going to be. Like I say, it's not Jeff Jarrett. It's not Steven Seagal. It is someone, though, that wanted around this period to be managed by Debra for the longest time. And he got his wish. It is none other than Das Wonder Kid, Alex Wright. What was your reaction when Alex Wright popped through that curtain?
To be honest, I haven't watched too much WCW, so when he did come out, I didn't really know if it was a big deal or not.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard too much about Alex Wright, so I wasn't too... I was kind of just like, cool, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Open-minded, I suppose, is probably the right way to go about it. But I mean, for me, I was okay with it. It kind of felt like it was probably an obvious direction, judging on the build to the pay-per-view, because of the fact that, you know, we look at it and see that Alex Wright had wanted to be with Debra, and she'd told him he was not good enough for the longest time to be representing with her. So that's kind of what leads into the match here. But these two, they go on to have a match, and let's be fair, Mongo's not the best in ring, is he? Alex Wright does his best to probably make him look as good as possible. Mongo looks to be winning, though, by hitting the tombstone pile driver. Debra distracts the referee, and out of nowhere, a Bill Goldberg comes in, spears and jackhammers Mongo McMichael, and then puts Alex Wright, picks him up like a baby almost, and puts him on top for the 1, 2, 3 for the win. And just to give a bit of detail afterwards, and we can take everything under one, Debra gives over to Goldberg Steve Mongo McMichael's Super Bowl ring, not forgetting, of course, that Mongo had won that with the Chicago Bears. And, of course, Bill Goldberg was a former football player as well, so that's where the link is. Goldberg says in the camera that it is his now, and then attacks Alex Wright after the match. So it's almost as if Alex Wright was the middleman doing the dirty work. It's almost building up a heel Bill Goldberg, of course, who had been undefeated to this point in WCW, but very early days. For me, that was the big shock here of everything. Did that save this match?
No, I don't think so. Not quite. It was just not the best match, was it? It was just a bit slow. You said the wrestling wasn't that great. I mean, the crowd were probably more into this match than any other match on the show at this point, to be honest. They were quite loud. But yeah, I mean, the Goldberg thing was cool. It kind of got me back into it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know if it saved it.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of have to agree with you. I think the Goldberg bit is the highlight of this match that keeps them going. These two do have a bit of a program going forward. But, I mean, the thing that's strange about it is that Goldberg seems to be heel here, but he's back to sort of being babyface by Christmas when these two wrestle again. So it feels that fans are more into Bill Goldberg really quickly. And I feel that WCW kind of call an audible, really. And Debra's not around for a lot longer anyway in the company. So I think that they kind of switch the roles over. Mongo kind of takes the kind of heel role of it, even if he's still kind of babyface, and Goldberg goes on to sort of get that mega push that we all know he goes on to do. But this match overall was 6 minutes and 31 seconds. I'm going to ask for your star rating before I read you Dave Meltzer's.
I'm going to go 1.75 for this one. It was a match.
It was a match. And put it this way, this is what I've got taken off of here anyway. I don't know how accurate this is, but this is minus 1.5 star from Dave Meltzer. He obviously didn't like this. He didn't even give it a dud. He gave it a minus rating. I'm not going to be that harsh. They turned up for work, damn it. I'm going to give it at least a 1.25 star because the match wasn't great. I will give it that. But Goldberg coming in there definitely was certainly a bit of element of fun. And it got you talking. You wanted to know the next element of the story. So there's something from it at least anyway. So I'll give it a grade for that. But it probably wasn't the highlight of the night. Has you got anything to add before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think another thing about this match that I didn't get was just the commentary. We're just talking about the main event and the NWO the whole time.
That's true.
I don't think they knew there was a match going on because they just didn't call it whatsoever. So that was a little bit odd as well. But
that's actually a really good point. That's a really good point because you said that we have Mike Tenay there. We've got all this great detail of what's been going on for these first matches now. Everything's been focused there. And as soon as we hear something with Hogan, the main event could be off and all the rest of it. Mongo versus Hennig, who? No, that's not. We're not that invested. And if they're not that invested, why should we be that invested either? So yeah, like you say, the crowd probably cared more than anybody else watching this. But no, it's a really fascinating point that you brought up there for us, because that did go on to be a little bit of a theme going on afterwards. But this arguably as well could have been the turning point of the pay-per-view. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. It's a little bit backwards. Obviously, we had a few good matches to start off with, but yeah. Well, yeah, we won't. I won't spoil it now, but yeah, this was definitely a turning point.
Definitely. Well, just before we go to the next match, which I'm very interested to know your thoughts on, Macho Man and Liz are backstage. DDP is a marked man. You were given a glimpse of greatness and you blew it. DDP doesn't know what he's got himself into. And Macho Man is the greatest wrestler alive. And Liz, of course, saying as well that if it was her, she'd say that DDP should just go home. So, yeah, hyping up their match as well. I didn't really think there was too much more that invested me into this long-term program they'd had together. This has been going on since like Spring Stampede back in April with these two. But it's still nice that they put a bit of focus on the match before we got it later in the evening.
Yeah, definitely. As I said before, it's just a good way to hype up for the match. And I love Randy Savage's promos. They're just so unique, and I think he just does a great job with it, whether it's heel or babyface. So yeah, as I said, it was good. It had a good purpose. So.
I agree, it had a good purpose as well. And yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a big fan of Randy Savage, and I must admit, I'm always tempted to try and give an impression every time because,
oh yeah,
he's just so amazing, isn't he? I may do one before the end of the stream. We'll wait till the match itself. But first off, we've gone into... I've promised it now, haven't I? We've got an intergender match we've got to talk about next time for the television title. Disco Inferno against Jacquelyn. Jackie, of course. For many that weren't aware, she was in WCW, and she was beating dudes up from the get-go when she turned up. She was originally with Kevin Sullivan. Then once he was finished off his program with Chris Benoit, Kevin Sullivan was no longer in the ring after this. She was with Harlem Heat for a period before going on to WWE, but also had this little rivalry with the Disco Inferno. Now, Disco, to his credit, bless him, I suppose, he spends most of this match running away. I think that's the best way to put it. And when he's spending most of this match running away and the match is just under 10 minutes long, you can imagine he's running for a pretty long time. But to kind of give it a basis, really, yeah, there are a couple of moments where he may get the occasional arm drag in to get away from Jackie, but it's just not great here. He does get to a point where he looks like he's actually going to go up the ring apron or the ring aisle, to walk away. Jackie does catch him and then chases him to the ring. Jackie does get the advantage, and she pulls his leg so that he goes groin first into the ring post as well. Does a suplex on the floor. A tilt around the world DDT a la Rocky Maivia back at that time, which was a nice little touch. And then she does give a roll up. And actually pins the Disco Inferno. So, yeah, not a good night for Disco. But I say this for the TV title. The belt didn't change hands here, which is interesting. I did notice that maybe this belt, maybe it wasn't on the line, but it was announced that that was the case. But hey, I've got the TV title written down, or TV champion Disco Inferno. But Jacquelyn does pick up the victory. What were your thoughts with this match?
Yeah, not great, was it? I think the problem was, the story wasn't great, but it was something, wasn't it? I just feel like if they actually, as you said, it was 10 minutes. So if they shaved off 7 minutes, I feel like it actually would have been, pretty good to an extent, I suppose. As good as it could be anyway. But it just dragged. It just got really old super quickly. But both Jacquelyn and the Disco Inferno, they tried to make something of it. They put in the effort. I found Jacquelyn quite entertaining, but yeah, it just went on for way too long. Just really outstayed its welcome, I think.
Yeah, 10 minutes felt like 20, and the crowd were turning on it as well. Like you said, if you'd have cut out the filler, made that sort of running away segment for about 2 minutes, and then you're trying to go to the back, and then do the ending, like you say, I think this would have been short, sweet, but it would have told its story perfectly to the point of what they wanted to give us, and I think we'd probably give it a higher grade. But I suppose there's not really too much to say on this other than it was perhaps a missed opportunity. But Jacquelyn did look solid in the ring.
Yeah, definitely. Jacquelyn was awesome back in WCW, wasn't she? Just an absolute badass taking on the guys, and just really fiery. She's a great wrestler as well. So yeah, always good to see Jackie.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And I must admit, as usual, I was doing my Disco Fever dance moves to disco as well. Never disrespect the entrance music. It is an absolute banger for anyone that hasn't heard it.
Oh yeah.
But I will get your rating of this one, of the 9-minute and 39-second match between Disco Inferno and Jackie. What would you give this?
I'm probably being too generous, but 1 star. Yeah, just not great.
I will do the same because they turned up for work, and I do feel as well like had they, like I said, done the trimmed version, this could have been a 2.5, maybe even a 3-star, just because of the fact that they would have got the story through and there would have been some enjoyment there. But that the first 2/3 of this match dragged on, so yeah, for me, just wasn't quite there. So 1 star from me. But Dave Meltzer does give this a 1/4 star, so you know he's not pulling punches here. He's saying exactly what he feels when it comes to this one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what a polarizing show, eh? Go from a 5-star to a -1. It's like,
yeah, it's quite a bit all over the place, isn't it? But I mean, hey, it's probably a good thing that we had the matches that we had earlier on in the card for what we had seemingly coming up with some of the next ones as well. But one match that you would expect would be a decent encounter would be the United States Championship, and this one definitely was on the line. It was Curt Hennig, the champion, against the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Now, for those that are unaware of the story, just quickly give a bit of detail from this one. Now, Curt Hennig joined the Four Horsemen when Arn Anderson had to retire. He took Arn's spot. So they went into War Games, the Four Horsemen against the NWO. Of course, they waited to the point where everyone was in the ring. Curt was the last one, I believe, at that point coming in for WCW for the Four Horsemen, and turned and joined the NWO. And it was a full-on beatdown and full-on taking Ric Flair out of the situation as well. The cage door was put straight onto Ric Flair's head as he was laying there, and it looked like it was written him off TV for a period anyway when that had happened. But so yeah, that kind of what led us here to this match here, and you know, Curt Hennig showing as well. I mean, these two have had a lot of history together as well, which I think kind of hones in as well. They kind of almost used that old WWE style of the 90s, that he was the manager for Ric Flair back in the early 90s and stuff. But Curt Hennig coming out in Ric Flair's robe with the sleeves cut off as well there. That was a nice little touch. I will say I did like that.
Yeah, definitely. That was quite funny to see him come out wearing that. Good idea to get in Ric Flair's head.
He certainly played good mind games and adds to that story instantly. And Ric Flair obviously adds to it as well by not doing his styling and profiling to the ring. He's running to the ring. And Curt, you know, Hennig doesn't want him to. He's trying to stop him from getting into the ring, but, you know, Ric Flair pulls him out immediately, chopping him all over the place. And, you know, eventually Ric Flair does get the robe off of Hennig and puts it on himself to get a nice little woo as well. But Hennig, of course, does eventually take control of the match. The majority of the match is done on Ric Flair's neck and head. Of course, as I said, mentioned with that attack at full brawl. Yeah, we get a full-on attack from Flair on the concrete floor as well, as it goes back and forth. It seems quite personal. And yeah, I mean, Curt Hennig, again, for the second match in a row, we see someone wanting to leave and not stick around. He grabs his US title, goes towards the back. Ric Flair jumps him on the back from behind and hits a knee on the floor. As they get back in the ring, the belt is in the ring as well, because obviously Curt Hennig had grabbed it at this point. We see a suplex, which is meant to be on top of the belt. Doesn't quite land on there, which is probably affects that moment a little bit. Hennig is put upside down in the corner as well, which again, the second time we've seen this in that evening. The US title was then wrapped around the face of Curt Hennig as Ric Flair stomps on it for the DQ finish. So Ric Flair clearly not caring about victory. He just wants revenge. Refs come to pull Ric Flair off. And as well as that, we see Vincent and Conan come out to make the save of obviously their NWO colleague Curt Hennig, and his face is covered whilst leaving. So yeah, I mean, this was, in my opinion, a bit messy, I would say. I think this match could have been delivered and executed a lot better. I understand they wanted it to be personal, and I think that's what the element they were going for. I think they delivered on the idea that it was personal, but I just think as a story-wise, as an entertainment spectacle, you know, to see it, I don't feel like I was as enjoyed, got as much enjoyment for this as perhaps what I should have done.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. There was just something missing with this match. I think it was slightly too slow at times. It kind of just sort of plodded along, and it kind of made it feel a little bit long where it actually wasn't. But you know, I think it was quite fundamentally sound. I liked the way it kind of started off with a brawl, because it kind of showed how much Ric Flair didn't like, you know, that it showcased the rivalry a bit better that way. And I liked how Hennig went after Ric Flair's injury with his head. He also went after the leg as well. I think that's the thing. Like, either you're going to have it as a brawl, and then it kind of switched to that technical wrestling. But I don't know if that kind of took me out of it, because I was like, would these guys just be wrestling like this? I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of seems, like you say, a little bit all over the place. And although the finish kind of did make, like the DQ kind of did make sense, because Flair doesn't really care about winning, he just wants to get that revenge. It is disqualification, isn't it? And I think it just take you out of it a little, regardless. I never really I very rarely like a DQ finish, to be honest.
For me, it kind of was almost a very cheap way to end it, wasn't it? It didn't really help deliver the story the way we wanted to, and it kind of, I guess, it's very unsatisfactory. And it's understandably, you don't want Ric Flair perhaps to win the United States Championship. He's kind of above that level. Hennig is perfect for that level. But do you think it would have made more sense, because these two go on to face off at World War III? Do you think it would have made more sense here for Curt Hennig to have continued getting the heel heat by picking up sort of like a cheating victory over Flair in this encounter and escaping still as champion?
Yeah, I think so. I think that probably would have made more sense for sure. Yeah, definitely. It just kind of fell a little bit flat at the end, I think.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. Well, let's go into star ratings then. What would be your star rating for this one?
Probably 3 or 3.25, because I said the wrestling was okay, and I think it did have pretty good psychology, to be fair. Had a reasonable story, so yeah, I'll probably go for that.
I'm probably a bit harsh today, I feel. I'm going for like probably a 2-star for me.
Yeah.
As I wanted to be. I thought the fans were really into it, which I thought was good. But I've just seen where I feel like these two are capable of a lot more, and I think that kind of let me down. And maybe because earlier this year, I must admit, I was going through 1993. I watched their encounter on Monday Night Raw, which actually sent Ric Flair away from WWE to go to WCW back then. And I remember that being a really good match. And I felt for this one, this was 13 minutes and 57 seconds. I felt it just was a bit of a letdown for me. But all in all, just to say as well, Dave Meltzer gave this a 1 and 3/4 star for this one. So he's more harsh than we are, just looking at that.
I've been right generous.
Yeah, I think Big Dave probably unhappy after the Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio match. Obviously feels that what we got here, but clearly shows that Eddie and Rey should have been later in this card. I think they deserve to be match 6 or match 7, judging off what we got.
It's never going to be in WCW, is it? They just
sadly not.
This is different worlds, wasn't it? Cruiserweights here, main events there, never any different.
No, certainly not. And one of those main event matches we go on to next then is Lex Luger against NWO's Scott Hall. Larry Zybskzo was the special guest referee. Now, of course, for those that will remember, Scott Hall and Larry Zybskzo were at each other's faces every single week on Monday Night Show throughout 97 and beginning of 98 as well. And I think they do even eventually have a match as well. But of course, they're still building towards that here. And I mean, these two here for me, I like the idea how they don't get along. It's almost like Luger's the spare part in this story, if you ask my personal opinion. I mean, we see Hall throwing the toothpick at Larry instead of Lex, which of course usually would be the opponent. Larry's having to show that authority early on in the match, breaking up those corners when they're sort of like, pushing each other in. Of course, first time is Hall, next time is Luger. Hall gets eventually frustrated after many rest holds with Larry's officiating. Feels there's probably slow counts in there. He attempts to hit a right hand to Larry, but he misses, gets back body dropped over the top rope. Of course, this is where the crowd go a bit electric. We see Eric Bischoff come out as well. Larry kicks him off the apron to the floor. I think that was a nice little touch. But Eric continues to distract him. 6, of course, is with Scott Hall whilst this match is going on. So, of course, that means Larry can't keep his eyes everywhere at the same time. Luger tries to put on his torture rack, and 6 hits him over the back of the head with a kick. And we see then that the outsider's edge is hit from Scott Hall for the pin. And, of course, Larry, he seems very hesitant on that pinfall as well. So up to this point with this match, I mean, obviously that's the bulk of what the earlier point of this is. It was a bit slow and steady, but there definitely was a good element of story to it. Did you get a sense of enjoyment from what we'd seen?
Not to be honest. It was one big rest hold. It was just so slow. As I said, the story was okay, but I kind of feel like, as you said before, that Lex Luger was a little bit of a spare part. And I feel like it actually should have been Hall versus Zybskzo with Luger as the referee. Because the thing is with special referees, I don't mind it, but I don't like it if they get too involved, to be honest. I always look at, like we said before with Austin and Bret Hart, with Ken Shamrock as a referee. I thought that's just a perfect example of what I would want a special referee to be. He's there, but he's not so involved in the match. But yeah, he was just constantly into it. Yeah, it told an okay story, but just so slow for me, and yeah, a little bit boring at times.
I would have to agree. This was definitely this is your toilet break, and you would have not think it would be with matches, with Luger and Hall.
No.
I was really hyped when this match was actually advertised at the time for Halloween Havoc in '97. I thought this would be a great encounter, but yeah, it didn't really sort of play out that way. But one thing is for sure, Larry Zybskzo is different to normal type of officials. Of course, he was hesitant with that 3 count, but obviously Hall makes sure that he gets his hand raised in victory. But Larry wants to see the replay as they're going towards the back. He sees what happens. He grabs the microphone. He says, "It's not ending like that. I demand this match to continue." And he starts a 10 count to make sure that Hall gets back to the ring because Hall doesn't want to lose. So he was running back into the ring. He pushes Larry into the corner. Larry pushes him back, and he goes straight into the torture rack. And yeah, Six comes to sort of break it up if you want. I don't know. The bell seems to hit at the same time, so I'm guessing Scott Hall probably gave up at this point as well. But yeah, we see then Luger's knocked to the floor, and then we see a beatdown with looks to be a beatdown. Six going to go for Larry Zybskzo, but Larry gets Six in his choke sleeper. Eric Bischoff breaks it up. And then we see Scott Hall attack Larry from behind. And then, of course, we see then Eric Bischoff kicking him around the temple. And then Hall makes the 3 count as a special guest referee to actually give Eric Bischoff a pinfall over him with 1 foot on the chest. So that I thought was quite creative at the end of the match. Obviously, we're building then to when we do get Larry Zybskzo, it's Eric Bischoff at Starrcade. And obviously, it continues on the heat as well with Hall and Zybskzo, with Hall taking that referee role after the match, even though it's not an official match. So, yeah, for me, I enjoyed this part a lot more than the match itself.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. As I said, it was good story progression building into Larry versus Bischoff. Bischoff is always quite a fun character to watch, isn't he? But yeah, it was definitely a good finishing segment with them all in it for sure.
I would have to agree. What would you give then with this match then as a star rating?
Probably like 2 stars, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is 13 minutes and 2 seconds. And I sort of kind of, with that last bit, I think brings it up to 2 star for me. Before that, I think I'd have gone with a 1.5 or 1.25 because, like you say, it's a very slow slogging affair. But Meltzer gives this a 3/4 star, so he's not in favour of this match either. So, yeah, I think he's still upset there. Still upset.
No, not enjoying this show, is he?
No, he's not indeed, Dave. But hey. We enjoyed it more by the sounds of it so far, even if we're not giving the highest ratings in the world. But one thing's for sure, you're probably wondering at this point, what about that main event, Steve? You missed out a bit with J.J. Dillon when he comes out to announce about the main event, what's going to go down. Don't worry, I've got you covered because it's a rewind after all. So sometimes I will rewind even in the pay-per-view. Mean Genius with J.J. Dillon and Hogan and Piper will take place as advertised. Bischoff comes out and says that you don't have the stroke to make this match. J.J. Dillon shows the document proving that the match will happen. So yeah, fans are happy that we will get the steel cage match between Hogan and Piper. Bischoff trying to get any stipulation added onto it. He says, we want Nitro if this match is going to end. He wants anything he can do. But hey, it makes the fans happy. So for me, even though I kind of think it's a bit, perhaps I could be a little bit cheesy and a bit corny, I suppose it makes me happy as well.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite a funny segment. Again, Bischoff was on fire here. He was all over this show, wasn't he? But I just love how he just kept saying, he hasn't got the stroke. Just kept repeating that line over and over. Yeah, again, another good way to build up to the main event and finally putting it back on track. Yeah, it's just a good way to build intrigue again, isn't it? You kind of throw it out a little bit so people are like, oh, not sure. And then you get to the point where, no, it is actually happening, just to get people excited again. So, yeah, another good segment.
Absolutely. And the thing is as well there also, when you look at it, you say, right, okay, as well, we're not too far from the main event at this point as well. There's only like an hour left of the show. So you kind of think it's happening. It's not that long to wait. Oh my God. So in a way, it is a very clever bit of booking there from WCW with that point of view. But we had a match before that and they described it as a Las Vegas sudden death match, which, of course, for those that are wondering at home, what is a Las Vegas sudden death match? Well, I've got you covered. It's basically a last man standing match. You've got to the count of 10 to get up. There are no pinfalls, no submissions, no count-outs, no DQs. So basically, it's your typical last man standing match. And we've got DDP against the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And I promised I would do a Savage impersonation during this. So without further ado, here we go. Probably going to butcher it now. I'll try it, but I like it. There we go. That's me trying something with Macho Man.
Amazing.
I don't know. Probably needs a little bit of work. Probably I need to snap into the madness. But yeah, I will. I'll have a practice for when we do another one of these, and hopefully I'll probably do better next time.
Matt, great job, man. You killed it.
I'd like to think I could do it better, but yeah, we'll go into it anyway. But one thing that's a good note about this, actually, before we even get into the match, actually, is good attention to detail from commentary. We said it throughout the night. DDP comes with taped ribs, and of course, they were injured earlier in the year in WCW, but they were re-injured by Randy Savage on the build to this match a couple of weeks before on Nitro. So that's a key component here seeing DDP have those ribs taped. So you know immediately where the story is going to go into this match when Savage does get the offense. But for me, I think that I like those little notes when you know superstars are hurt and they kind of have like we say here, taped ribs or a taped arm. You know that it's going to be a body part that's going to be targeted at some point, but it adds to a natural story and you've got something to work with immediately.
Yeah, exactly. You've hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, it was always good to tell the audience that, just to know what to look for, and this did become a really vital part of this match with the story, with the ribs and everything. So yeah, always good.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, I tell you what, this match does begin on the floor and it goes everywhere. Just to say, it's really one of those. It goes back into the ring, goes through the crowd, and they even brawl into the entranceway, basically where they have like all the tombstones and everything, like the actual setup of the staging. It's really, really cool. Macho Man is thrown into the tombstones. He gets body slammed through a coffin, and I love this, worded by Dusty as well. He says he's hit with a waitress tray. I love that.
He was. That was so funny. He was going absolutely mental, wasn't he?
He was like laughing. He's like, I love this. I've seen nothing like this. Is that personal experience, Dusty, with the waitress tray using one of those? I just love the way they have the camaraderie. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
There was another point in this when they were in the crowd, and just one of these fans, I don't know, he just took his top off and was just like following the action with his top on. I'm like, what are you doing? People go absolutely going crazy during this match.
It must be the 90s. That's all I can say to you. I don't think you'd see that these days at all when it comes to that.
That's exactly what I've written on my notes. It must be the 90s.
Great minds clearly think alike. But yeah, well, so as we go then sort of back towards the ringside area, Savage does get back into the match and get some momentum. He throws, we mentioned the ribs, by the way, so they come into play here. Page going ribs first into the barricade, then to the steel steps also. Savage goes up to the cameraman, steals the camera, knocks the cameraman to the floor as well. As he goes to hit Page, who's laying down in the ring, he kicks up so the camera goes into Savage's face. I thought it was a cool looking spot. As we see then, it looks like the referee's going to start counting. It's about that waitress tray again. Liz has a tray and hits the referee over the top of the head with it, knocking him unconscious. And when have we ever seen Liz like this? Honestly, Mr. Elizabeth would always just stand in the corner, mind her own business. No, she's getting the cables wrapping around DDP's neck and everything.
I popped so hard when Elizabeth got involved. I was like, hell yeah, because it's just, as you say, he's so used to seeing her just so passive. And just seeing a full Elizabeth heel turn here, it was awesome.
It was amazing to watch. And, of course, it goes on until Kimberly, of course, Dallas Page's wife, comes out, one of the Nitro girls, and then she's pulling her and they're brawling to the back. It's fantastic. Do you know what I mean? It's just great to watch and great storytelling, because when was mentioned, I think, on the build to this as well, would the ladies get involved in this match? And, you know, just having that tease there and the fact that they kind of delivered on it, I thought was a nice little touch. It added to the match. It gave a good excuse as well to actually change the referee. We had Nick Patrick as the referee from this point onwards. Trainers taking the other referee away. So all in all, I thought this was a nice little transition. It gives a bit of a rest period as well for the two guys where, you know, clearly won't get up for the 10 count either.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that was a nice stroke there as well. Another thing I really liked about this match was they didn't actually count the 10 until like way later on in the match. I don't think the first 10 count happened maybe until like Nick Patrick was in the ring, which is always great because a lot of last man standing matches, kind of sort of shove it down your throat from the very beginning. But obviously, it's hard to believe that the competitors have actually had that much damage inflicted to them. So I thought that was another nice touch here.
I have to really agree. I think it's a fantastic point because, like you say, yeah, it's good for the people at home to like the stipulation. You understand what they're trying to do early doors. That makes a lot of sense. But like you say, they're not going to be down for the 10 count immediately. It's like, oh, you've hit him with an elbow drop. It's surely getting up at 4.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know, you wouldn't get the pinfall with it. So yeah, I agree with you. It makes a lot of sense. But as these two make it back to their feet, we see DDP attempting a diamond cutter, but Savage manages to keep his hand on the top rope, which of course means DDP goes to the ground, and Savage manages to keep himself a bit safe. We see Savage hit his famous elbow drop from the top rope, and like you say, we get the counts in here. DDP gets up with a count of 9. Savage goes for a slam. DDP's leg knocks into the referee, knocking Nick Patrick over, but he slides down the back and hits a perfect diamond cutter, which for me, it doesn't keep Patrick down long, but it's a bit of stalling time to protect the diamond cutter, because obviously Savage would get up here. I thought it was a really nice little touch of this match.
Yeah, that was definitely a really good touch. Some nice psychology there. Going back a little bit as well with the 9 count from the elbow drop, that was really cool as well, because obviously it was to DDP's ribs, so that was cool. But yeah, that was definitely a nice spot with Nick Patrick and the diamond cutter. I love it in matches when people know how to sort of protect their own finishers from looking weak. That's such a lost art in wrestling these days. So that was definitely a good touch.
Absolutely, yeah, because you don't usually these days when someone hits it, you don't see a delay before they just go straight into the pinfall immediately and you see a 2 count. It's
yeah,
like, oh, well,
exactly.
that finisher's not protected anymore. Like you could at least like, oh, I've got a problem with the leg or the ankle. I've got to crawl over. I'm that beaten up. I need to stick one arm over it. Just those little touches make such incredible difference in the match. So yeah, you bang on the money there of how to protect those finishers. It's definitely lost in the modern art of wrestling.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I feel like if you ever go and watch Shawn Michaels matches, he was incredible at doing that. He'd heat the switch in music, and then it would just be out for like a minute before he sort of slowly crawls. And yeah, this match is a great example of wrestlers doing that.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Well, I'll tell you what, DDP does go for another diamond cutter, but Savage sort of counters this into almost like an attempted backslide. But instead of going for the backside, he hits a low blow instead with his leg, and Page goes straight out to the floor. I mean, if his ribs were hurting him, now something else was hurting.
Poor lad.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Poor lad. Savage was with the ref, and at this point, a fake sting, which was very common around this point in WCW with the storytelling. We mentioned with Sting and Hogan and stuff like that. A fake sting comes down to ringside, and I'm going to say fake sting straight away because we're not going to muck about here. He hits DDP with the baseball bat into the ribs. Of course, then the referee turns, gives the 10 count, can't get up. Savage gets the victory. This was a really good match, but I must admit, I understand that they probably want to protect DDP here. So for that, it was probably necessary to do, but I do feel it was probably a bit of a lame finish. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, totally agree here. Yeah, bit of a flat finish. Yeah, it was a shame because I feel like I could have added like an extra sort of a start. I know we haven't given our ratings yet, but I definitely feel like it could have been a lot better if they had quite a climactic finish. So it was a bit of a shame, but didn't let the match down too much.
No, absolutely not. And the thing is, I mean, Savage does continue to get that heat as well at the end because we see him do a couple of more kicks to the ribs as he's leaving the ringside. DDP's been put on a stretcher at this point as well. And then obviously as he's being taken towards the back, we see as well Macho Man come in and land a few more shots in for good measure as well. So that heel heat is there. And one other note as well, quickly before we go to some comments, as well, we noticed that the commentary do speculate that by judging the boots, the bogus Sting at that point was Hollywood Hogan. What are your thoughts with that? Obviously, with the bogus Sting stuff going on.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure. I mean, were all these Stings supposed to be sort of the NWO characters? Because in that case.
Sorry, I was just going to say it kind of goes back to '96 when Sting originally was rumored to be going to NWO, and that's kind of what went him going away from the babyface Sting into the Sting that we got the Crow, when the bogus Sting in NWO for the longest time, and then we got to a point where with this Sting, the way they tried to counter it was by continually throwing in bogus Stings here and there to make it look like that Sting had joined the NWO and not them. And that got on countlessly throughout the year. But on this point, going into this pay-per-view, it felt almost like we had loads of Sting impersonations, but over on the babyface side to actually counteract with the NWO, which we'll come more into when it comes to the main event. But yeah, it was a very interesting what they've done here with this here. And obviously, this one clearly was an NWO version of it. But yeah, sorry, going back to your comment, what was your thoughts with it?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely interesting. I quite liked, and I like the fact that DDP had to get on the stretcher and everything, and with Savage. And I think it would have made a lot of sense if it was Hogan. Bit of like an inside job with the NWO. So yeah, definitely interested me.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go to some comments because we've got a few comments that have come flying in here. And I definitely love this first comment that's coming from C Nation Dog. C Nation, thank you for this comment that's come flying in here. And he says, 5 reasons why Wrestling by Wooldridge is awesome is coming soon. He's got it done, but it hasn't been uploaded. So that's coming to his channel. So that's something to look forward to in the coming sort of perhaps days or weeks, maybe. How awesome is that?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Oh, it's always nice to see. Thanks,
absolutely. He also goes on and said that he's never watched a full WCW show. Do you think I should or not really like 90s wrestling? Well, I mean, it all depends on your flavor, if you like 90s wrestling or not, but they're definitely, I would say that there's a lot of historical moments to go back and watch. So for that reason, if you're not even the biggest fan of some of the in-ring style, it's good to go back and see some of the stories and the way the characters develop and that sort of stuff. And I'd say with this show, this is a big time filled show here. I think there's a reason why a lot of people voted for this show, not just because of Eddie and Ray. I think as well because there's a lot of big time players involved with this. You've got NWO at the height there. You've got DDP. You've got Roddy Piper in around there. And as well, you've got the Cruiserweight action, Chris Jericho in those early years as well. So there's lots to go and look out for. But obviously, if you stick with us to the end of the stream, we'll probably can tell you the matches that we recommend of this card that you probably should watch, and maybe the ones perhaps you should avoid as well. But Aaron, what would be your thoughts here of the idea of perhaps watching some 90s wrestling and definitely going and checking out some WCW?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you've said there. And I think the great thing about these pay-per-views at this time, especially in 97, was the fact that they had like kind of this like NWO versus WCW thing. That's what separated the NWO from any other sort of faction in wrestling. They were that big, they were actually wanted control of the company, which made it so interesting. Obviously, we've had guys like JJ Dillon, who, was a big part of WCW, and you have an NWO going after guys like him. So, yeah, I think it was really cool for that aspect. And as you said, you've got the cruiserweights there. They had guys from New Japan coming in as well. So it was a nice clash of styles on each and every show. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out. Full of so many great big characters as well. Pretty much like all the big names from like the late 80s kind of moved over to WCW over at this point. So yeah, it was good.
Absolutely, and a lot of the stars that were going to be stars for WWE in the noughties are around here at this point as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff there. If you drop a comment actually after this video's gone off, I can actually probably list maybe some full pay-per-views from WCW that I'd recommend, because there are some great pay-per-views amongst this. And I mean, obviously, we're not going to give away our rating for this one just yet, but this definitely has got some stuff that you should definitely be checking out. As Joshi Pro comes to the comments as well and says that Havoc, was this mask versus title? It was indeed. If Ray had lost this match, he would have lost his mask. But this was for me was the best WCW match of all time. I would have to agree. I so far watching through the Nitros, and I've been watching a lot of the pay-per-views from the last couple of years from NWA to this point. I don't think I've seen a better match than these two right here. And there's been some ones that have been very close, but I think these two just did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, personally, I haven't watched too much WCW, but when anyone ever talks about, a match that you need to watch from WCW, it's always this one. And yeah, just watching it, I can completely understand how this would definitely be the best WCW match of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely indeed there. Joshua Pro goes on to say as well, DDP is one of the most underrated talents to come out of professional wrestling. He should have at least won the IC title in WWF after WCW went out of business. Yeah, I think he was a tag team champion, wasn't he, with Canyon? But I don't think much more came other than that. But do you think DDP was a missed opportunity? I mean, they gave him that awful stalker gimmick, didn't they?
Yeah, I honestly think that story just completely sort of derailed his career in the WWE or WWF. For such a big name from the WCW coming over to the WWE, it just didn't really stuck up, which is a shame. I think I don't want to say he turned into like a comedy character, but yeah. I just don't think people took him seriously in his WWF run, which is a shame. But there you go.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, the love is here for you today, Aaron. I can say that. Rest of Orange is in the building. I love your channel. There you go. I mean, I think it says it all.
Thank you
there,
so much.
it? You're not on your own,
I
Joshi.
really appreciate it.
It's honestly always a pleasure every time I can get this guy to come and join on for a live stream. And Sinesh also says that he wasn't born in the 90s, maybe a reason why he doesn't like it. You know, I can understand that there is a disconnect if you weren't alive during it. I sometimes find it a bit difficult watching matches probably from, say, the 70s and stuff like that, and probably some of the stuff in the 80s as well. So I can understand that philosophy, but I definitely think there's always historical moments and stuff like that. So like I say, if there is stuff you want recommended, let me know after this video and I'll drop a few in the comments for you. Josh Bro, there's lots of love going on for you. It says, I don't think 5 reasons is enough. Well, 5 million. I think C Nation would be all day if he did 5 million reasons. I think that would have to be the longest stream ever. I think if C Nation, I think 5 is I think it's going to be great to watch that video, C Nation. We're really looking forward to it. And I think I do agree with Joshi as well. The superlatives there are endless for this guy. He's awesome. And he says that 5 reasons why will come out on October 27th. So there you go. That's a date to look forward to there. So there you go. Mark it in the calendars. So and he does say something nice as well. Says that I'm awesome too. I will make 5 reasons why you're awesome too. Just a lot of awesome YouTubers. Well, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. You're one of the goats of wrestling YouTube. You're one of the guys that got me into this. So yeah.
I appreciate
SCW. That. You're the man. Love you. all your videos, man. They're so great. So.
I appreciate that. It really means a lot to hear that. And it's always nice. And I have to agree, one thing it said in this as well. There are a lot of awesome YouTubers. There are so many great ones out there. And it's great to see that a lot of us in this community can, do collaborations, can, support each other's content. It's always really, really good to see. And so Nation, I look forward to checking out your upcoming videos. They're going to be really, really cool to see. And I'll definitely be heading over to the channels and definitely checking some of those very, very soon. But last comment, we'll go then towards what will be our main event, Joshi Pro. 5 million reasons why it would take too long. It would take probably a bit. I mean, obviously doing these, your throat can feel it after doing these videos. So I can understand probably 5 million would be a lot. But hey, to be fair, we've got a lot of good things to say about this, man. But definitely, we look forward to that video when it does come out. But very quickly, I don't know if we gave our rating for Savage versus DDP. So for those that are wondering, you're not getting away with it, Aaron. What would be your rating?
So I think originally I went for 3 stars, but after we sort of talked about it, it was just a lot of fun, wasn't it? Just a really fun match. So I'd probably go like 3.5, to be honest.
It's bang on the money. I think your 3.5 is where I stand with this as well, because this was a lot of fun. There's some fun moments in the match. It's definitely one of my favorite matches of the show. We've turned back as well. I'll probably, after a really solid undercard, to having a bit of a flat middle of the show. This really picked things back up. So, again, I'll do the Savage. I like it. There you go. It's like one of those. So, I dig it. Exactly. I dig it. So, yeah, this one definitely gets that. And this is the longest match on the show as well. It's 18 minutes and 7 seconds. And I would say it probably feels around that, but I don't think that that's a bad thing either.
No, not at all. Definitely. As I said, it's just a lot of fun. And if you can keep it at that level, yeah, I think you can have the match be a lot longer. It was really well paced, to be honest. So, yeah, not a lot bad to say about this match, to be honest. It was good fun.
It was good fun indeed, though. And I tell you what, we will then move on to what was the main event of this show. Oh, I'm looking forward to talking about this. It is the steel cage match between Hollywood Hogan and Roddy Piper. Now, these two had faced a couple of times in WCW, and Piper had won each time in WCW, just of interest, always with the sleeper. So there's a couple of notes there just to know before we get off the bat. Oh, God. Hogan tries to run away before the match. So, before we even go into detail with this match, I want to quickly give a shout out to Michael Buffer. Because Michael Buffer, of course, is popular boxing, ring announcer. He still does it to this day. Let's Get Ready to Rumble is a big time feel. And I've got to say, one of the funniest things I think I've heard, he says, the winner of this match will be the person that will survive if anyone survives. I mean, seriously, what were your thoughts with like the monologues we get when these superstars come into the ring with Michael Buffer?
Yeah, interesting. Maybe went too much into the corny sort of section, but as I said before, like I think Michael Buffer did a great job of building up the excitement towards this main event. Like as if like the segments beforehand in the show didn't build it up enough. Having Michael Buffer there was like, oh, this like got a big fight feel to it for sure. And as Hogan and Piper, who aren't like the best technical wrestlers in the world, but yeah, that they really built this match up well.
Yeah, I do think they built this match up very well indeed there. And as you say then, and we go into some of the detail with the match then. And as I said, the Hogan tries to run away from the very start, trying to get out of the cage. Piper catches him. We see him biting Hogan on numerous occasions, including on the bottom, trying to get him off of the cage. It was, yeah, not one for a sight for sore eyes, really. Hogan attempts to get out of the cage. Very early on as well. Piper comes with him, and a bit of a botch here with commentary. Roll my eyes a little bit because Tony Schiavone says if Hogan gets out, the match is over. Well, he went straight out of the cage with Piper behind him. But, so this wasn't executed the best. But one thing that does kind of make up for it very quickly is that Hogan swings the door on numerous occasions into Piper and then leaves him with an atomic drop onto the barricade. I thought this was cool to see that the cage was being used early doors into this match.
Yeah, I have that written on my notes as well. It's always good when you have a cage match or Hell in a Cell and they actually use the cage. Just makes the stipulation more interesting. So yeah, that was definitely a good quality early on into this match. But yeah, as you said, when with the mistake with Hogan sort of walking out and they're like, is it going to end? Is it not? And he's not too sure. So.
Being Hogan, he says he's not want to be in this match all night. He says, I'm leaving. So for the third time tonight, someone's going back up now. It feels a bit, I feel like it's going through Groundhog Day here. Sorry, it's a 90s reference going through here, but it's a good popular movie from Bill Murray. I recommend that one for sure. No, looking at as he goes up there, then we've got the Sting. Is it a bogus Sting? Is it the real Sting? Pointing the baseball bat at Hogan. Hogan sort of stops there. So this time you feel it must be the real Sting because he's not sort of like, you know, He's quite put off by it. He's kind of frightened by it. And Piper obviously comes back to attack, brings Hogan back into the cage, does a couple of doors to Hogan for good measure as well. We see the two of them looking to climb the cage on the other side as well. And as they come to do that, we see another Sting come and stand by next to Sting as well. So obviously one of them is a bogus Sting. At least we could have two bogus Stings. Is it getting a little bit confusing with this many Stings coming on? We have more to come as this match goes into more detail.
Yeah, a little bit for sure. And you're kind of wondering who's underneath them. Yeah, it was a little bit odd, to be honest. I don't know whether it got a little bit too much when every 2 seconds Schiavone would be like, oh, there's another Sting. Oh, there's a Sting. Oh, there's a Sting. It's like, okay, where are we going with this? So, yeah, a bit strange.
I mean, literally, like you said, they're coming through the crowd, they're coming down the aisle. There's just so many of them with different sort of wig haircuts as well as Sting. It's really strange to look at. It was just, they could at least got like, well, they all looked identical, but yeah, they couldn't do that. Obviously, the I don't know, the sort of fancy dress shop, I suppose, only had so much that they could offer, I suppose, at the time with the wigs. But I mean, Hogan's whipping Piper as well with his belt that he has in the ring. We see as well, then Hogan tries to climb to the top of the cage, and while he's doing that, one Sting is pointing his bat at Hogan, so Hogan's stuck up there. Piper meets him, and they're brawling up the top of the cage. Like we're saying, more Stings are coming down as well. Both climb back down into the ring. Hogan hits 2 leg drops and he calls for the referee who's not in the cage, calls him into the cage. Piper kicks out at 2. So Hogan at this point is panicking because his finisher can't finish off Piper. He calls for Savage, who runs straight past all of the Stings, literally just dives through them, goes straight to the top of the cage, quick as you like. And this cage is really high, by the way. Comes jumping on, but kind of doesn't really hit that. But he hits Hogan. He doesn't hit Roddy Piper. So it's a bit of miscommunication amongst the NWO here. At this point, Savage is taken out of the ring. Piper then hits his sleeper and gets the submission victory of Hogan passing out. So Piper is free with Hogan here, winning the cage match as well. It got the crowd going crazy as well. What were your thoughts with this match? And then we'll talk about the aftermath afterwards.
Yeah, you know, again, it was just a really slow pace again, not too much happening early on. I think they might have overdid it with Hogan constantly trying to escape, and obviously a bit uncertainty about whether if you escape the cage, you know. The thing that I didn't think made sense is because they left the cage early on through the doors, and then Hogan was just trying to escape up the cage. And it was kind of like, why? Like, I don't know why that's any different, to be honest. What, are you just going to stay up there while your Stings are on the other side? So I don't know about that. But as I said, it got pretty good towards the end, I think, when the guys started hitting their bigger moves. Not too sure about Hogan hitting 2 leg drops and then instantly sort of Piper kicking out. But and then Savage's dive was incredible, to be honest. As you said, he was so high up and kind of so far away from the target. That was great. But so yeah, it was a pretty good finish, I thought, to be honest.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy from being a WWE fan. Pretty crazy to see Piper as the babyface and Hogan as the heel, and then Piper winning the match with a sleeper hold. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, not too bad. But I thought they finished fairly strongly.
Yeah, I think they finished fairly strong. I do like the elements with the cage, but you make so much sense there. Why was Hogan up there? He's never doing the leg drop off the top of it, is he? Let's be fair. You know, if we can ignore those details to the side, it certainly was okay for what it was. But obviously, an attack was done after this match as well with Savage and Hogan. Bischoff comes in there as well. One of the bogus stings come into the ring as well, but that doesn't go well for the bogus sting. But Piper is eventually handcuffed to the cage and is starting to be attacked by Hogan and Savage. And then we got what seems to be a fan that climbs over the cage. And comes into because the cage is different. We should explain that as well. The cage isn't just surrounding the ring ropes. It's actually you've got room on the floor to maneuver.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Hell in a Cell, but without the top on it. So that's the style of steel cage WCW had around this time period. And I mean, to be fair, like it was a bit weird once this fan comes in because you see the sort of bogus sting. You can see it's not the real sting. It's holding him down. Then we see Hogan and Savage kind of beating on this fan, but the fan has got Sting face paint on. And the thing is, we see WCW officials kind of break it up, but there's not this urgency to break it up, which makes me think this is definitely a work because it's still probably trying to build up Hogan and Sting for later on down the line with the Sting fan getting beaten up. It's one of the Stingers after all. But I kind of feel like this was a very strange way to end the pay-per-view.
Yeah, really weird. When they sort of went off the air as well, I was like, really? Like, that's how they're going to end it? Because I just thought maybe they'd finish whatever happened with the fan and then go back to something with Piper. Because obviously, like, I think Bischoff had come in and he was sort of doing his little karate kicks to Piper. So I thought, oh, they're just going to go back there. But yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. And if, as you say, if it was sort of a way to build up to Hogan's Sting, I'm not sure if it worked out too well. I think this is from someone going back and watching it, and if I see a fan enter the ring, I don't know. If it is a work, it doesn't kind of sit right with me. I think to have a work fan come into the ring, because I think these days, if you do see a fan going into the ring, it's like, well, I'm not surprised the wrestlers are beating on him. So I don't know how I'm supposed to have sympathy for the guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, just didn't make a lot of sense, but
no, it didn't. It was a very sour way to end the pay-per-view, and it kind of just, I don't know, it kind of felt flat, which is really a shame when you've had like a cage match, you've had the fans sort of going up for all the antics that these guys have done, and then it just, I don't know, it's just one of them things for me, it didn't connect. But to give it the rating, and just to go into detail as well with the match length time as well, that this is 13 minutes and 37 seconds. Dave Meltzer's give it a dud, so you know what his thoughts are of it. Would you go that harsh on it?
No, I don't think so. I'd probably go 2.25. Yeah, I don't think it was that bad.
No, I don't think it was that bad either. I'm going to go for a 2 as well. But the aftermath, I'll give a dud because that really didn't connect. And, maybe this could have been a 2.5 had they not had that in the end. So, yeah, it is what it is, sadly, with this. But, hey, that is WCW's Halloween Havoc. So before we go to the chat, I just want to get your overall thoughts just to finish up on the show, what your overall rating out of 5 stars you give for Halloween Havoc 1997, and should fans go and watch it?
I'd probably go 3 out of 5, I think. I think when you see a 5-star match on a show, sometimes you're inclined to go for 4 stars, even if, everything around it is sort of fairly good. But with this show, there really is only like 1 or maybe 2 or 3 matches that are worth seeing. The rest of them just are not great whatsoever. So I think a 3 would be the rating I'd go. I'd definitely recommend people to watch this pay-per-view, definitely mainly for the Cruiserweight match. But as you said, it is a lot of fun, like especially the last man standing match. That was a lot of fun. And this was sort of really ingrained in the NWA versus WCW era. So it's always good place to find out what's happening with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's definitely in the heights of WCW kicking WWE's butt every single week at this point. And like you say, there's 3 matches that really stand out on this one. We obviously Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, arguably their greatest match ever, and they had some great matches even in WWE. I would say DDP and Savage is definitely worth a watch. Certainly a lot of fun, and I think the opener as well. I would say with Ultimo Dragon and Yugi Nagata. Of course, Yugi Nagata recently was on AEW Dynamite against John Moxley. So there you go. So that's just goes to show that he was on TNT back in the day as well. So those are the matches I'd say definitely worth going to check out. I agree with your 3 out of 5 rating just purely because when you look at it, yeah, I mean, like there's some great things on the show, but there is some duff one as well. But when you see a 5-star match, yeah, it does pull up the rest of the show. But definitely for historical purposes, I would say that it's definitely worth going to check out. But we've got some comments that we're going to finish off with. Yeah, we'll quickly go to those there. We've got Joshi Pro with Roddy Piper with the awesome Scottish gimmick, lol, which is good fun to see indeed there. As well, SCW and Wooldridge, the undisputed YouTube World Tag Team Champions, are the head of the Wrestling YouTubers table. We got to love that, haven't we?
Where's our belt?
Absolutely. We'll have to get on WWE's shop and get ourselves a tag team championship or something. I don't know, just have those for live streamers. But we really love that, Joshi. Thank you so much. It really, really does mean a lot. And it goes on to say as well, Hennig defeated Ric Flair by disqualification was a ending. I feel Mr. Perfect is in my top 10 wrestlers of all time. Mr. Perfect was an incredible athlete, and definitely, I would say, ahead of his time. He would have some great matches with superstars today, wouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Unbelievable. Such a good technician in the ring as well. So I'm definitely not surprised if he is in your top 10 of all time because, yeah, he deserves a really, really good wrestler.
Absolutely superb. Yeah, I would have to agree then. Definitely one of my favourite matches, just to show how much I love Mr. Perfect, with Bret Hart back at SummerSlam 1991. Incredible encounter between those two. Sination asked about a SmackDown and Rampage at the same time tonight. They clashed for 30 minutes. So the opening of Rampage and the end of SmackDown is on TV. But AEW also, for the hour previous while SmackDown is on, will have a YouTube show on as well with a buy-in. So if you want to know my thoughts with that, then go and check out my latest live Q&A from the early point of that video. You can hear me and Tom Colohue discuss that in great detail and what we think about it going through. So yeah, definitely worth going and checking out if you haven't seen it already. Joshi Pro as well says that Tony Schiavone in WCW and now in AEW, unbelievable. Imagine if he got this many stings in AEW, and I'll relive the past. Yeah,
well,
you know that. Could bring it back.
We did for the cinematic match with Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. They had all the stings, didn't they, coming in at the beginning?
So true. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, maybe that was a callback. Who knows? I don't know.
Maybe. We need a retro review for Revolution now, don't we? That's what we need. Maybe have to look for that at some point down the line. Brian Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki will be on the same time as SmackDown. I think it is, buddy. Yep, that is true. That will be on the buy-in on YouTube, and that's going to be a hell of a match. And do you have a quick prediction winner who you think will take it?
It's got to be Danielson, isn't it? I mean, I think if he had lost already, probably Suzuki. But I don't think they'd give his first loss in a kind of like I don't want to say an upper match because it is going to be a great match, but there isn't a lot of, much behind it. So yeah, I'd definitely go for Danielson.
Yeah, you can't have him losing at this early stage of his career, but I definitely get a very big red chest from Suzuki. Suzuki, the mean grandpa that he is, would definitely land in some shots for sure. And SCW used to like Hollywood Hogan till he never wanted to put anyone over, and that's kind of sad truth of the 90s, unfortunately. There was many occasions where Hogan, politics, let's just say, played its part. So yeah, it's a shame that is the scenario. SCW and Wrestle Wooldridge should do more videos together. We will try it, my friend. It's always a great privilege to do videos with Aaron, so fingers crossed we can do more of them in the future. And as hinted at the start of the video, that I may be appearing on your channel in the very near future as well, so maybe something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned indeed. Joshi goes on and says, well, I was never a Hollywood Hogan or NWO fan, to be honest. I really was into Sting versus Vampiro. It should have been on Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. I would love to see it on a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. I must admit, I've only seen Vampiro appear once so far on my journey through WCW this time watching round. I've seen stuff from the noughties, but I don't really remember it that well. But yeah, that definitely was something I would love to have seen on a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. Definitely would have been awesome.
Yeah, sounds pretty fitting, to be honest, for sure. So, quite surprised they didn't, but oh well.
It's a shame they can't do that now with Halloween Havoc as NXT Havoc.
Yeah.
This is a great idea here with Sting and Darby versus Vampiro and Pentagon Jr. Loving the style there, especially with Vampiro and Pentagon with the Lucha Underground days as well. That's certainly definitely a fun comment. AEW is like WCW, but a lot better version. Absolutely. But the thing is, he's kind of got a lot of similarities where they're doing the Forbidden Door stuff. So there is that there. And they are bringing
the roster.
Size of the roster, bringing reality back into wrestling as well. So there is stuff there that has those similarities for sure. WCW had its moments where it was really, really good. But yeah, it is starting to get to the point where it does take a bit of a nosedive. In 98, definitely I can say now where I'm at in 98, the tide has definitely turned. That's what I will say there. And also, my prediction is Daniel Bryan win and a DQ for Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. I agree with that. I think Bianca Belair will get involved at the end. But that's pretty much everything from us then on this particular. Thank you everyone that's been checking out. Hang on, we'll just quickly see this last one here. Sting needs to have a singles match in AEW because if he doesn't, he only has tag team matches. It's very true. Would like to see it at one point. Would you like to see Sting have, I don't say he's protecting tag team matches, but do you reckon perhaps a cinematic match or something to get Sting one-on-one one day?
Yeah, something like that. I do think he will have a proper singles match, maybe with Darby, to be fair. Maybe not as like a heel versus face, but maybe as like, okay, if you want to get to the world title, prove yourself against me. Maybe that would be Sting's last match. But yeah, I definitely want to see him have a singles match, whether that is cinematic or not. So hopefully we get it.
Fingers crossed. That would definitely be fun to see. And yeah, I mean, like you say, it'll be good passing of the torch as well there. But that's all from us anyway. Thank you everyone that's been checking out the stream as always. And like I said, go and check out other videos on my channel as well. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you can do me a favor at the end of this video, leave a comment as well, because it just helps with the algorithms. It helps grow the channel. It really does help support as well. So if you can do that, really, really do appreciate it. But Aaron, before we do leave, tell everyone about your channel. I feel like a lot of the chat know about it already, but tell them what you've got to look forward to, what's coming up.
Yep, so I've got Under Analysis Chapter 10, which should be either coming out this weekend or early on next week. And I did hint towards it to the end of my video, but I'll say it here. It's going to be the match between Hulk Hogan and The Rock. So I've got that coming up. As I said, in a couple of weeks, hopefully, me and Steve will be doing another collaboration on my channel with another Legacy Sessions. Haven't done that for a little bit. And yeah, also got some more ideas coming out as well. So yeah, please subscribe if you can. And subscribe to Steve because he does a great job. Always so happy to be a part of this channel, whether it's with the retro reviews or SCW Live. So yeah, it's always a good time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on, and it's always a pleasure to have you here. And one last question I need from you, because it just come into the chat just as we're about to end the stream. Bryan Danielson versus Adam Cole at Full Gear, yes or no?
Yeah, I think so. Either that or Adam Cole versus Christian. But I'd probably prefer Danielson versus Cole.
I'd prefer Danielson versus Cole, but I wouldn't be surprised with the match you've suggested there either, with the way they've got the tension currently with the Elite and Jurassic Express and Christian and all the rest of it. But that's all from us, mate. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much for being put in the chat room as well. It's been great to have you all on board. Take care. Have yourselves a good one. Keep an eye on this channel as well. Just to say very quickly, we've got Bound for Glory predictions on the way on the channel the next few days. We've got Crown Jewel and the Q&A, the normal Q&A as well coming. So lots to keep an eye out for. It's going to be a busy few days, but appreciate everyone's support as well and look forward to seeing you on the next one. And last but not least, Sting versus Brody Lee would have been gorgeous. We can't help but agree that would have been absolutely phenomenal. It's a shame that we never unfortunately got that opportunity, but we do miss you, Brody Lee. Thank you everyone that's been watching. This has been Halloween Havoc 1997, the retro review. Take care. Thank you. We'll see you next time, and let us know what your favorite moments were in the comments if you're watching on delay. Take care. All the best.